There is a river flowing within each of us. Sometimes it is gentle, sometimes it rushes wild with emotion, but the river does not cling to the stones it passes. It simply flows. What if your suffering is not caused by the weight of the stone, but by your refusal to let it drift away? Not every burden must be carried. Some are only meant to be seen and released. A leaf falls from the branch in autumn. It does not question the wind that carries it. It does not cling to the tree it once belonged to. It simply surrenders to the air, allowing itself to be taken wherever the current of life wishes to carry it. In this silent surrender, there is no struggle, no resistance, only trust. This is the way of non-attachment, not to abandon care, but to release control. So often, we grip tightly to what has already begun to fall away. A relationship that has run its course, an opportunity that has slipped beyond reach, an identity that no longer fits who we are becoming. And yet, the tighter we hold, the heavier it becomes. The branch does not bleed when the leaf departs. It makes space for the new season to arrive. But we, humans, carry the weight of what no longer serves us, long after it was meant to be released. The leaf floating on the stream does not resist the water's direction. It does not try to swim upstream. It moves with the rhythm of nature. In the same way, when we learn to observe what is happening in our life, there is peace in no longer needing to control every outcome. To live without clinging is not to live without love. It is to love fully while accepting impermanence. Just as a sunset is beautiful because it fades, so too are moments, people, and experiences in our lives. When we accept that everything is in motion, we begin to move in harmony with life, rather than resisting its flow. Attachment demands that things stay the same. There is a difference between holding and carrying. When we hold on, we stop moving. When we carry something, we are free to put it down when the time is right. The burden comes not from the event itself, but from the story we keep telling ourselves about it. I was wronged. I failed. Non-attachment does not ask you to stop feeling. It simply asks that you stop clinging to the feeling. Emotions are visitors. Let them pass. Allow joy to enter without fearing its departure. Allow sorrow to arrive without fearing it will stay forever. Neither is permanent. Both are teachers. If you let go of the need to grip life tightly, you will find that life supports you without force. That, like the river, in daily life, this practice begins small. Notice when you tighten your jaw in frustration. Notice when your breath becomes shallow in fear. These are signs that attachment has taken hold. Do not judge yourself for them. Simply observe, then soften. Open the hands, loosen the breath. Let the moment pass through you instead of defining you. The less you hold, the lighter you become. To flow like the leaf is not weakness, it is wisdom. It is knowing when to act and when to let be. It is moving with rather than against. It is remembering that everything in nature has its time, and you are not separate from nature. When you release the illusion of control, you enter into a state of harmony with the universe. Then, peace does not have to be found, it is simply revealed. Let the leaf fall. Let it float, let it go. Let yourself go too. Gently, softly, with breath, into what comes next. Before a wild animal strikes, it watches. Before the arrow is released, the archer draws a silent breath. And before a master moves, he waits, not out of hesitation, but out of perfect readiness. In the way of the Shaolin path, movement must arise from stillness, not from chaos. It is not instinctual flinching that leads to clarity. It is deliberate stillness that births wise action. Like a mountain untouched by the wind, there is power in being unmoved by passing emotion. True strength is not loud. It does not shout. It does not strike first. It waits. It listens. It understands. And only then it responds. In a world that moves fast, where decisions are made in seconds and reactions are instantaneous, stillness has become rare. But without it, we act without wisdom, we speak without reflection, we live without alignment. Stillness is not stagnation, it is the fertile ground beneath the surface, the space where awareness is cultivated. When you react, you surrender your peace to the moment. But when you pause, you reclaim it. The moment between stimulus and response is sacred. That small pause is where mastery begins. Think of the body during meditation. It appears to do nothing, yet so much is happening. The breath deepens, the mind softens, the thoughts rise like mist and slowly begin to clear. This is the internal art of becoming still. It is not about freezing the body, it is about centering the spirit. And when the spirit is centered, the body moves with grace. Action becomes pure, speech becomes mindful, energy becomes conserved. Nothing is wasted because everything flows from intention, not reaction. In daily life, the practice of stillness begins with awareness. When anger rises, don't answer it with words. When fear approaches, don't fight it with force. Instead, pause, breathe deeply, feel your feet touch the earth. Listen to what is being said outside, but to what is moving within. That is the storm you must understand. Your thoughts that to shed these thoughts off. But without stillness, they become your masters. With stillness, they become your students. Just as the lake reflects the sky only when undisturbed, your mind reflects truth only when calm. If you stir the waters with judgment, fear, or resistance, the reflection becomes distorted. But when you simply sit and allow the surface to settle, clarity emerges on its own. That clarity is not something you create, it is something revealed when the noise fades. The warrior trains not just the body, but the ability to wait, to observe, to restrain. When we do not rush to solve, to explain, to retaliate, we give life a chance to unfold more gently. Strength is not found in domination or force. It is found in knowing when to yield, when to step back, when to be silent. Like the moon that does not compete with the sun, strength rooted in stillness needs no proof. It shines in its own time. Modern life may teach you to hustle, to climb, to speak louder, but the path of the Shaolin monk teaches something quieter. Do not be in a hurry. Let silence mature your next step. Let your breath return before your voice does. And then when you move, it will be without regret. And so you learn not to fear the quiet. You begin to welcome it. You bow to it. Because in the quiet, there is listening. And in listening, there is knowing. And when you know who should know, you do not need to chase your next move. You allow it to come before the release. What gives the teacup its purpose is not its clay, but the empty space within. It is the emptiness that holds the tea. The same is true for the flute. Without the hollow center, it cannot sing. And so it is with you. The silence between your thoughts, the space between your breaths, the stillness between your actions. These are not voids to be filled. They are the very ground of your being. We seek to understand the art of removal. To remove what is not essential, to return to what is simple, and through that simplicity, allow wisdom to arise. Many people spend their lives filling their minds, their homes, their time with more information, more desires, more comparisons. But fullness often leads to heaviness. The mind becomes cluttered, the heart restless, the body exhausted. And in this constant state of filling, we lose the one thing we truly need: space. The space to observe clearly, to breathe deeply, to move freely, a sacred container for presence. Imagine your life as a room. If every inch is packed with furniture, noise and distraction, how can you move? How can light enter? You must remove to restore balance. The same is true internally. A crowded mind cannot reflect truth. A crowded heart cannot feel peace. This is why meditation is not an act of gaining, it is an act of releasing. Not doing more, but less. Sitting in quiet, not to achieve, but to remember, to let the layers fall away, until what remains is the open space of awareness itself. There is a practice in Shaolin temples where a student is asked to carry water from the well over and over, up and down the stairs. It seems like a task of repetition, of no spiritual value, but in truth it teaches emptiness. Each time the bucket is filled, it must be emptied before the next task. The lesson is clear. Usefulness arises only when we let go of what we no longer need. If you carry yesterday's anger, today's worries, and tomorrow's fears, how can you hold anything new? There must be a releasing, a pouring out, a returning to zero. In everyday life, emptiness begins with awareness of what you're holding on to unnecessarily, a belief about who you are that no longer serves you, a resentment that poisons each interaction, a constant noise in your thoughts that drowns out your intuition. Ask yourself gently, is this necessary? Not in a judgmental way, but in a wise one. Do not be afraid of becoming empty. Gives you a rise of. Many people confuse being empty with being lonely, but there is a difference. Loneliness is the ache of absence. Emptiness is the presence of space. And space is needed for anything sacred to enter. Without the empty bowl, the meal cannot be served. Without the pause between notes, there is no melody. When you begin to value space as deeply as form, you shift your inner life from struggle to stillness. You begin to notice beauty in the quiet. You learn to appreciate simplicity. And in that simplicity, you find what was always waiting behind the noise: clarity. To be truly free is to no longer need to fill every corner of your life. To trust that who you are does not depend on what you possess, what you know, or how others see you. Freedom lies in subtraction, not addition. In releasing what clutters the heart, in emptying the vessel so it may be used again, in softening the grip and letting things pass like clouds through the sky, like watching mind. The mirror does not create what it shows, it only reflects. But when the mirror is covered in dust, it no longer reveals the truth. Instead, it distorts, confuses, hides. Your mind is such a mirror, and every moment you live is reflected through it, whether it is clean or clouded. The Shaolin path teaches not only discipline of the body, but also purification of perception. For the mind, left unchecked, becomes covered in the dust of past wounds, unexamined fears, and unchecked desires. The clearer your awareness becomes, the more truth you begin to see, not outside of you, but within. This is why we sit in silence, not to become empty in the shallow sense, but to become still enough to notice what we've allowed to gather. A single word spoken in anger, a moment of resentment clung to, a need for validation. We carry these with us. Like fingerprints on glass, they blur the image we try to see. And so, day by day, the clarity of our own nature dims, not because it has vanished, but because it is hidden behind layers we do not question. To clean the mirror is to return to what is unchanging within you. It is to recognize that beneath all your roles and thoughts and identities, there is something still, something pure. But to return there, we must first notice how much of what we believe is reaction, not reality. When someone criticizes you and anger rises, is that truly you? Or is it the dust reacting? When you chase status or approval, is it because it brings peace or because it temporarily hides your inner doubt? These are not questions to shame you, but to liberate you. Because only what is observed can be transformed. In the Shaolin way, we say that you do not need to fight the darkness, only light the candle. In the same way, you do not need to fight the dust, only see them. The seeing itself is enough. With awareness, you do not need to push thoughts away, you watch them. You do not need to argue with your emotions, you feel them, but you do not identify with them. You learn to sit calmly as the observer of the inner world rather than being caught in its storm. And slowly, gently, the mirror clears. Daily life gives you endless opportunities to clean this mirror. When you feel hurried, pause. When you feel judged, reflect. When you feel resistance, breathe. These are signals that something internal is asking for attention, not suppression. Every emotion is a messenger, not an enemy. But if you act on every emotion without reflection, you create karma. When you observe first, then act, you create peace. The difference is everything. And so, begin each day with this quiet task. Not of achieving more, but of seeing more clearly. Ask, what am I carrying that is no longer mine? What thoughts am I mistaking for truth? What emotions am I feeding through resistance? Then breathe. Sit. Let the mind settle like water after a storm. In time, clarity will return, not because you force it, but because you allowed it. A clear mirror does not judge what it sees, it simply shows it. Your inner work is not to create perfection, but to see without distortion, to let each moment arise in its purity and to meet it with calm presence. When you do this, life no longer feels like something to control. It becomes something you are part of, a reflection of a deeper harmony. And as this mirror becomes clearer, you begin to see not just yourself, but others more clearly. You respond with kindness instead of reaction, with wisdom instead of fear, with understanding instead of defense. Because you are no longer viewing through the veil, you are seeing what truly is. A river never clings to the rocks. It does not pause to grieve the bend it must leave behind. It flows, effortlessly, endlessly. Even when met with obstacles, it does not resist. It curves, it adapts, it carves a path through stillness and surrender. In the same way, life is not something we control. It is something we move with. And when we stop trying to hold, grasp, force, or fix every piece of our past, we begin to taste a freedom that is not given from outside, but unlocks from within. Flow is not passivity. It is the highest form of harmony. It is the result of deep observation and even deeper trust. The bamboo bends in the storm not because it is weak, but because it understands the nature of wind. The tree that refuses to sway snaps in the pressure. So too, when we cling to what was or obsess over what must be, we break. Not because life is cruel, but because we resist its rhythm. The Shaolin teachings remind us, it is not the world outside that causes suffering. It is the refusal inside to let things be as they are. To flow is to practice radical acceptance. Not the kind that gives up, but the kind that sees clearly, that recognizes what can be changed and what cannot, that understands the seasons, do not ask for permission to change, nor does the river delay its course to explain its movement. The more we try to control what is meant to evolve, the more we suffer. But when we observe with calm eyes and a quiet heart, we begin to move with life's changes, not against them. In practice, this means learning to feel emotions fully without letting them rule you. When grief comes, allow it. Let it wash over you like the tide, knowing it too will recede. When joy visits, be present. Do not cling, do not fear its departure. Just be there for its moment. Flow is not about detachment from experience, but about non-attachment to outcome. To experience life deeply without drowning in it. To engage fully, yet remain light enough to move freely. Freedom begins the moment we stop demanding that life be different. It begins when we loosen our grip on how things should be and bow instead to what is. This does not mean surrendering to injustice or accepting suffering without action. It means acting from clarity, not from resistance. When the mind is still and the heart is soft, decisions come with less friction. We stop struggling to swim upstream and begin to align ourselves with the current of deeper wisdom. Look at the way a martial artist moves. There is no rigidity. Each strike, each block, each breath, it is not a fight but a flow. Years of discipline teach not brute strength but effortless precision. Why? Because they have learned the art of yielding at the right time, pushing at the right moment, and retreating when needed. This is not weakness, it is mastery. A mastery born not from dominance but from deep understanding. So ask yourself, where are you holding on too tightly? Where have you confused control with care, resistance with resilience? Flow invites you to soften, to trust that you are not alone in this movement, that life itself is intelligent and your work is not to wrestle with it, but to listen, to align, to breathe with it. The river does not ask where it ends. It simply follows its course. Through stones, through valleys, through still waters and roaring falls, it flows. Let your journey be the same. Not dictated by fear, not constrained by the illusion of control, but shaped gently by the trust that whatever comes, you will meet it with presence and move forward, not with force, but with. As the river flows without resistance, so too must we learn to live without clinging, without force, without fear. The teachings you have just heard are not distant ideals. They are invitations. Invitations to release what burdens the heart, to return to stillness before action, to honor the sacred space of emptiness, to cleanse the mirror of the mind, and finally to move with life rather than against it. Each teaching is like a breath, soft, simple, essential. In a world that demands more noise, more movement, more striving, choose instead the quiet path, the way of the inner warrior. Remember this, nothing you truly are can be taken from you. What leaves was never yours to possess. What stays does so, without pressure, like the leaf that floats, like the mountain that breathes silence, like the mirror that reflects without judgment. Your peace is not found through doing, but through being. There is a Buddhist reflection that says, let go or be dragged. It is both a warning and a gift. Let go, not because it is easy, but because it is time. Let go, not to escape life, but to flow with it fully. And in that surrender, discover the quiet freedom that has always been waiting within you. Start today. Not by searching, not by chasing, but by sitting still and seeing what remains. Thank you for walking this path with me. May your days be light, your steps grounded, and your spirit calm. Breathe gently and carry peace with you wherever you go.